Welcome to Dahod Garden.
We are preparing the soil mix for our containers today. So the question is why we need to prepare our own mix and why can't we use the native soil which is available in plenty. So here is the native soil. We basically have hard clay, and so the problem with a soil like this is it really cannot help roots penetrate and get all the nutrition from the soil, as well as it really forms a solid mass when water is injected in it, and that's why things can get waterlogged and it can rot out the roots, and that's why we don't use this hard clay soil in our container gardener. We have to prepare our own mix. In summary, this hard clay would not allow the root system to develop, as well as it won't allow the water to drain. Both of this can really stunt the growth of the plant, as well as rot out the root structure. We are ready to prepare our soil mix for container gardening. So here are the different ingredients we are going to use to prepare our soil mix. So we'll use about 50% of peat moss, and this will help loosen up the mix and also help with retention. So peat moss is an organic matter, but it's not easily renewable. So if you have any reservations about that, you can use other things like coconut coir or coconut peat. So I'm going to use about 50% of this by volume, and then we are going to use about 50% of compost. So here is nicely broken down compost that we have, and then I'm going to use some rabbit pellets. So these three ingredients will form the base of our mix. So now this should help with a nice mix of loosely formed soil mix with organic matter as well as nutrition. Now, to help with drainage, I'm going to add vermiculite, which is formed from volcanic substances. Vermiculite will help with drainage and aeration so that water doesn't get logged, and it also helps the roots to kind of penetrate and form a good root structure. Make sure to get coarse grade vermiculite, and that will really help with drainage. If you don't have access to vermiculite, then you could also use coarse grade sand or engineering sand. We are going to use a few toppings. So we are using peat moss, and peat moss tends to be acidic, so we are going to use a little bit of lime to balance that. Also, I'm going to use some micronutrients. So for example, I'm going to use Epsom salt for some magnesium, and then I'm going to use some bone meal for phosphorus. So we need basically three levels of nutrients: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And then I'm also going to throw in a little bit of a slow release organic fertilizer. Alright, so I have mixed up my peat moss, vermiculite, and compost, and as you can see, it forms a very nice loose mix, right? Very loomy. So if I kind of try to form a ball out of it and then release it, it all crumples down, and this is the consistency we need, and this will really help the roots to penetrate and water to nicely drain, as well as the vermiculite and peat moss will help with the retention. I've added a couple of handfuls of lime, garden lime. I also added a couple of handfuls of Epsom salt and also about a cup of bone meal. And of course, everything goes smoothly if you have a little gardener to help you around. And she has been a good help. And now we are going to mix everything up and then throw in a little bit of organic fertilizer. And then we should be able to pot everything together. We are going to plant some cucumbers today, so we are going to do it in this bucket. It's a 5-gallon bucket, and then I put in a sleeve of a bamboo basket, so this will help, protect against the strong sun that we have here in Kansas. Also, another thing we have is lots of wind and heavy winds in Kansas. So I have added a layer of rocks at the bottom, and this should add a little bit of weight, and this should help with the strong winds. And another thing you may want to do, and actually you must do, is to put a few holes at the bottom, and this will help the water get out of it and not strangle your roots, rather rot your roots. Alright, we have 2 containers all filled up with the mix we prepared. So what I have done is I have actually given them a nice shower of water, so it will allow the soil to settle down, as well as it will get rid of any of the air pockets, and we would know exactly what is the level of the mix in this container. So we are going to let everything settle down for a couple of hours, and then we are going to come in and plant our cucumbers. So I'm going to put 2 plants in this bigger container and a single plant in this smaller bucket container.